All right, I think we're live. I'm so happy to have everyone with us today for the What Moves Her conversation, especially as we head into Mother's Day weekend. Girls, I know a lot of us could use this weekend. I am wishing all of you breakfast in bed and sleep, even though who knows if that will actually come into reality. All right, let's just address this. Mother's Day can mean a lot of different things to many people. So I want to start by recognizing this as caregivers in every form. There's mothers, there's bonus moms, there are daughters caring for parents, there's people supporting partners, siblings, friends, teams, clients, household, communities. So much of caregiving is visible, but so much of it is not. And I think it's really about making space for that part that often happens behind the scenes. And we could probably have 100 tabs of those behind the scenes that are happening for every single person on this call. Our theme today is the juggle is real. So credit to Ashley Greenfield on that. It is something that is going to become part of my everyday language. I love it. And I feel like it's a future book title if it doesn't exist already. And I love that we're calling that out because honestly, balance very often feels like the wrong goal. And I've had this conversation with so many women, especially in this company. Balance in theory sounds really beautiful. It sounds calm. It sounds like a woman drinking lemon water, answering emails peacefully, meal prepping, leading a meeting, and remembering their kids' pajama day, and actually closing their laptop at 5. And then also some having less than 2 laundry loads waiting for them, which also is never the reality. But that's not what it is for most of us. Most of us, it's really about having less, not having it all, and holding on to a lot. And I think we try to do it gracefully. Sometimes we do it. Sometimes we do it barely. Sometimes we do it with 97 mental tabs open at once. I'm going to give you a really real example from my own morning. The thing that almost took me out, ladies, today was not a major work crisis. It wasn't a strategy meeting. It wasn't a difficult decision. It was remembering which color my twins had to wear to school for Teacher Appreciation Day because each class was wearing their teacher's favorite color and I couldn't remember who was red and who was green. Couldn't find the email, couldn't find the text thread. And it sounds small, but that's the point. It's not about the shirt color. It's the shirt color, the email you forgot to answer, the meeting you're leading, the aging parent, the commute, the guilt, the part of the brain that is wondering if we have milk at home. And that's the juggle. And I want to also acknowledge that some people on this call are navigating another layer, which is return to office. Some people are hybrid. Some people are fully remote. Some people have always been the in-person and never had the option to work from home. And that all matters. This conversation today is around flexibility. And sometimes that isn't always flexible because you're required to show up physically in an office, in a branch, in front of clients, in the field. So today, we really want this to feel honest and we want it to feel inclusive of all those different realities that are across Compass International Holdings. We're going to talk about what the juggle actually looks like, what systems help, what still feels hard, what support really means, and how to keep moving forward in our careers while caring deeply for the people around us and our responsibilities in our life. So my hope is that you leave feeling a little less alone because you have a lot of women that are on your side in this company with ideas you can actually implement immediately and a reminder that you don't have to be perfect to do an incredible job. One of the best pieces of advice that Liz gave me when I was coming back from maternity leave was give yourself grace. And I have genuinely held that in my heart for many, many years. So with that, I'm really grateful to be joined by a fantastic group of women bringing real experiences, not just their highlight reels, into the conversation. I want to welcome Victoria Keshinjay, Leah Wright, Amy Lerner, and Haley Marks. So we're going to do a round robin of intros. They're going to introduce themselves, their names, their roles, number of kids and their ages, and then just one sentence describing their reality. So Tori, you've been my partner in crime for, I want to say 8 or 9 years at this point. So I'm going to kick off with you and say you have kept me sane at this company for our entire friendship. So I want to thank you, mom to mom, woman to woman, for being that person in my life.
Oh, the feeling's mutual, Linz. You keep me sane for sure. I am part of the Century 21 team, and I am a mom of 2. I have a 7-year-old son and a daughter who is almost 3. And I have no immediate family anywhere near me. The closest person is about a 3.5-hour drive. So we lean a lot on our extended support system of friends and babysitters and really anyone who will lend a helping hand when we need it. So that's what's really keeping me sane at the moment.
Miss Leah?
Well, hello there. I think we need to say, Lindsay, that I think we should ban spirit days. I've also had those panics in the morning of we don't have a pink t-shirt. What do we do? But with that, I am Leah Wright. I am part of the Better Homes and Gardens real estate team. I have been with the company for about 13 years. So my kiddos have grown up with this company. Actually, I was part of Coldwell Banker at one point, and when I left CB, that was part of my daughter's identity, and she had a really hard time. And she said, "Wait, so you're now going to be competitors with CB? How does that work?" But she is 12, and my son is 14. He is going into high school next year, so we're navigating a whole new world of challenges. And what keeps me sane is a phrase that I always say, and that's being perfectly imperfect. Back to the idea of balance, and they're not really being balanced, but being okay with the imperfections that life gives you.
Perfectly imperfect is beautiful. Okay, I'm going to set this up for this next speaker. At some point, anyone that has had a child in the middle of the night goes, man, how does someone that has twins do this? So that one baby, the baby's screaming and they think of twin parents. I'm a twin mom. I had twins, and at some point, many points in the first year, I woke up in the middle of the night and said, man, how do people with triplets do it? Introducing to all of you the woman who has done that. Amy Lerner has triplets. So introducing Amy Lerner, superwoman extraordinaire. I don't know how you do it, Amy.
Thanks, Lance, and thanks for having me. I'll start with my motto, which it takes a village. And that really pertains not only to one kid, but especially when you have had triplets. My triplets, I've got identical boys and a girl, and they are 11 and a half. They still, we joked about this the other day, but they still count halves. And they're actually really excited. Their birthday party got canceled last year. They're December babies. And the December birthday party is always amongst holiday parties and people going on vacation. So they were sick. Half their friends couldn't come. We ended up canceling. And so they're super pumped. They're having a half-year birthday in a couple weeks. So I work on the CBR side. And I have been with the company for 8 years.
Amazing. You are superwoman, Amy. I will say that all the
Thank
days
you.
that we know each other. And we have a
Thank you.
new friend in the mix. So we're really excited that What Moves Her is expanding beyond just Legacy Anywhere and into Compass International Holdings world, including Compass as a brand. Haley Marks was one of the women that I was introduced early on to and immediately had just this kindred spirit vibe with her. She's an incredible creative, an incredible mom. So Haley, welcome to What Moves Her as the first
Thank
event
you.
on the Compass side.
Yes, thank you. My name is Haley Marks. I lead creative for Compass International Holdings. I've been with the company for 11 years, but I'm also now sort of the new kid on the block. So this is my first What Moves Her event, and I'm so grateful to be included. And to be with these amazing women as peers. I have three children. Rowan is 5, David is 3, and Una is 1.5. So we are in it. And one sentence to describe my reality is just like beautiful chaos. So our house is loud and messy and full of love, but there's not much sanity to go around.
You are in the thick of it, definitely. One of the benefits of working from the office right now is I have Ashley Greenfield, who is the woman behind What Moves Her from a project management perspective, sitting 2 desks down from me. So I just asked because I can't see the screen. We had a slide of all of our kiddos, so you could put some faces to names and ages. So I think she's going to flash that up right now. Beautiful, beautiful families. I mean, just truly like model material. So hopefully you guys can see that on the screen now. We're going to move into questions, and we're going to leave time at the end for questions and answers because you really do have 4 veteran moms who really do have it together. So we're going to kick off with, what does your version of the juggle actually look like? And then what are 1 or 2 systems that you're actually leaning on that are holding your life together right now? Being specific really helps. So Haley, we'll do reverse from intros. If you could kick off with, what does your juggle look like? And then
Yeah.
what are you putting in place to really keep you together would be really great to hear.
Um, Great question. I think right now we are at like light outsourcing and a heavy dose of just letting go. So we have two sets of grandparents. We have a full-time nanny. 8 hours a day is still not enough. We have a private nursery that we're paying for. We finally have one child in public school, and like we're still drowning in the juggle. So it's been just like a humbling experience entering this next phase of having three children and being a working mom where I just have to let go of my perfectionism. My kids eat school in the cafeteria. We always need a bigger pair of shoes, and I have to be okay with that. And that's sort of where we're at, outsourcing and letting go.
That's awesome. One of the phrases that I keep near and dear to me from a former colleague is outsource anything but love. It's a really great mantra, and I've tried to adopt that as well. Hale, quick advice for there may be some first-time moms on a call right now who are dealing with mom guilt around sending their kids to daycare. I feel like it's this like, oh my gosh, I'm going to drop my baby off with these people. It's scary. Any advice for maybe moms navigating that decision to help them get a little support? Maybe not everyone can afford a nanny. Daycare is the next best option. Any
Yeah.
advice for that, like making that decision and the benefit?
Yeah. So not to get like real deep real quick, but I had a pretty like serious bout of postpartum anxiety after my first. So this hits deep for me. Like I definitely felt this going back the first time. Um, we had a nanny at first and then actually chose to send him to a daycare instead. So lived this exact experience. I think mom's sanity and stability is most important, and that has to be like the number one priority because everything flows from that. And so getting the help that you need, whether it's in home or out of home, to then be able to spend your time when you're with your child, energized and full of life and full, I think is so important. And I definitely felt the guilt, still feel the guilt, but tell myself every day, like you are, the fact that you have the guilt makes you an amazing mom, and that you're sort of 10 steps ahead, just finding yourself in that place.
Amen. Amen. Miss Lerner, what does your juggle look like right now? I know your work juggle because you and I are sharing that, but what does your juggle look like?
Yeah.
And then what are you putting in place to keep your life together?
Yeah, so the juggle, I think, is just the ultimate balance of activity, after school activities with, meal planning and getting your work done and making sure that you're attending the things that matter to your kids after school when you can make it. Recently one of my sons said, no one comes and watches me because, he plays tennis and it's just a lesson, right? And we're used to going to games. And so it's okay, mental note, let's prioritize getting there. Between my husband and I trying to alternate getting to something like that. So it's really just like taking those key hints that you hear about and literally writing them down to remember them. I also live by a Google shared calendar. So making sure that everything in my life is in there and that both my husband and I can see it. And he's a great support of that as well. I actually chose an au pair route when we found out we were having triplets. Believe it or not, depending how many kids you have, au pairs are actually more economical. It just depends if you want somebody to live with you and have the space. So any moms that are out there, if you're interested, or have never heard about an au pair and are interested, please feel free to contact me about it. But that has been sort of my village, outside of my husband and, our family when needed, is just helping having that extra set of hands with the three kids, getting them to where they need to get to while still staying sane and being able to, sit at my day job 9 to 5. So that's my current juggle.
It's great tips. So just to recap, listen to cues, very helpful. Shared
Yes.
calendar, if you don't have one, is an absolute must. I'm at the point where even we share our calendar with grandparents just to add another layer of where are we going to be and when. And all pair is really interesting. So again, if you're interested in going that route, Amy really knows a lot about that space. So actually take her advice and come to her if you're thinking about it. All right, Leah, what does your juggle look like? I know a lot of wrestling in your house.
Yes, indeed. So I would say one day at a time. My kiddos are school aged and fairly independent, but comes with that a lot more scheduling to navigate. My son, who's 14, now more independent than ever. So he has his social life. We're navigating having a girlfriend, which is something that I didn't anticipate that would be on our bingo card because he's a fairly independent kiddo. So those items are things now that we're having to have some real hard conversations about communication, really open lines of communication for us. But I am lucky enough that I live next to my parents. So we joke everybody loves Leah, and they are a huge support for us as far as being able to help take kiddos to extracurricular activities. Both my kids wrestle. I have a boy and a girl. So a lot of times when you have different gender kids, you're split in sports because the sports are split. We are lucky enough that our kids do sports together. So we're around each other a lot as a family unit, which is amazing. But we also live and die by a calendar. My son actually downloaded a new calendar on my phone that he now is sharing with me, all of his extracurriculars, so that I can drive him all the places. But yeah, so one day at a time is what we currently look like in our household.
I feel like you may have a like a Netflix show brewing with your parents next to you. Like you could
Yep.
take advantage of that, Leah.
Most definitely. And I know we'll get into this later. My parents are getting older, but my mom has always had medical issues. And so it's nice that not only she can help us, but we can help her as needed as well. So it's a real tight family unit. I know that we're really lucky, and I don't take that for granted.
That is important. And I definitely do want to circle back on aging parents because it is a very timely conversation. Tori, what does your juggle look like? How are you surviving?
My juggle involves a lot of like baton pass offs. My husband and I both travel a lot. And so most weeks there's a version of when are you flying out? When are you coming home? Who's pickup? Who's drop off? Which activities are we covering? Which activities can we not make? So there's a couple of things that we've implemented to just keep our sanity. One is, it sounds silly, but it's a life meeting. Like usually every Thursday or Friday morning, we take 5 to 10 minutes and we have a dry erase board on our refrigerator, and we map out the following week, like into the weekend, into the following week, and we talk about all of the things, everybody's activity. And just that 5 or 10 minutes, there have been times where we've caught like, oh my goodness, you're flying to a different state on this date and we didn't have it marked, like we would have totally missed this. So that piece. And then another thing is if you don't have some version of like a shared list app with a co-caretaker, we use the Google Keep app. So I have things like we have a running grocery list. So anytime there's something that we run out of, my husband or I will just add it to the grocery app. And so then whoever's on grocery duty for that week knows, oh, this is what we're missing. Same thing, we've got a running packing list because we do a lot of travel and we take our kids on a lot of travel. We've got a list of every single thing that we normally bring for those kinds of activities, so we can co-pack at the same time, and I know what he's got in there and what I need to grab. So it's a lot of like just finding systems that work for you, so that it just makes communication easier. You create kind of systems. Both my kids are, my daughter is in full-time daycare. My son is school age and he goes to aftercare. But there's so many little pieces in between all of that that get added to the mental load and the calendar. So just trying to keep some sort of a system is what has been working for us.
So Listansky household officially will be starting a life meeting on Thursdays to mirror the Kesh and Jays because I think that's brilliant. I also wrote down the Google Keep app, which I'll be downloading immediately after this. Now, my friend Tori is not only a brilliant marketer, but she's also a brilliant mom. And she's been talking about something probably for the past 8 years that I feel like is her book in the making. And she's talked about something called the fourth trimester. So we all get pregnant with our babies and everybody's so excited for the baby to come. And those first 3 trimesters are full of us standing in front of boards talking about what size our babies are in comparison to a fruit or vegetable, and then all hell breaks loose because they're here. And it's this new chapter of our life where we are now moms and we are taking care of these living, breathing humans, and we are returning to office. So I've always thought the fourth trimester analogy was really smart, and I know that we've all navigated that on that call. On the opposite side of the journey, the other thing that we don't talk about a lot as caregivers is aging parents and the new responsibilities that that brings. So while we're caring for the young, we're also starting to care for the aging. And I think that is a very difficult position to be in as we navigate the jobs that we all have. So this is a toss up. We can go around. We don't have to round robin. I'd love to just be a shared conversation. But, where are you at in that journey of raising children, starting to think about or already doing the caretaking for maybe aging parents or even, siblings or aunts and uncles in your family? I'd love to hear about what that's like for each of you in your journey. And Tora, I'm going to kick it to you just to lead things off because I know you're navigating both sides of that right now.
Sure. So I'll talk about the aging parent conversation first. So my grandmother suffered from Alzheimer's and ultimately passed away from it. And it was a really big wake-up call for me, watching my mom go through that experience of taking care of her mother, that allowed me to have some really real, raw, uncomfortable conversations with my mom, in order to prepare us for what that caregiving situation should look like. I saw her struggle with so much guilt isn't even the right word. It was more like, am I doing the right thing? Because I don't know if mom would have wanted me to do it this way because she couldn't ask her.
Right.
And so asking those questions of my mom of, mom, when it gets to that point, how do you want this to look? How should I take care of you? What do your finances look like? And really like digging into it, even though at the beginning it felt uncomfortable, positioning it of I'm not just doing this for you, you're doing this for me. It made her turn the table and say, oh, I really do want to talk about this. And I would encourage you, regardless of whether your parents are still living independently, however much support they need, have those conversations, not just so that you know how they want to be taken care of, but so that you have that peace of mind of, these are some of the steps I might need to take. These are the things I should be thinking about, before it might be too late to have those conversations.
That's such great advice, Tori. Excellent advice. Who else wants to jump in on this one?
I was just going to add on here, Tori, because you bring up something really important. It's like flipping the script on the parent relationship, because like asking the questions of like financially what happens, or how are they able to support themselves if there are like really difficult things that happen medical wise. My mom my whole life has had medical challenges, and I have had some sort of caregiving role over my mom because she was a single mom. So I was always like privy to her medical needs, wants, desires. But for me, what has kind of flipped is I am now very focused on my kids. And sometimes I feel guilty that I'm not paying enough attention to what my mom needs. And sometimes, like lately, I've noticed that she's struggling, and finding the time within my schedule to find time to support her and make sure that she has the things that she needs so that she can live her best life, and not feeling guilty that I'm taking time away from my kids as well. So that's a real reality right now for me, is trying to attend to my mom and making sure that she's supported. But it's back to like prioritization, and as much as it's hard for us to like let go of the feelings of guilt, I just feel like sometimes like guilt is going to be part of, at least for me, my reality, and to be okay with that, and that it's not a linear path that I can make up for times that maybe I overlooked my mom, and that's where I am right now.
That's great advice, Leah. And I think you're giving women the permission to feel the guilt and to know that it's very normal, very raw, but that all of us feel it at some point. And some days you're going to feel it really hard, and some days you're going to say, you know what, I'm just doing my best, and my best has to be good enough. Haley, anything to say on this one?
I have a question. I'm
Sure.
learning so much. I'm taking notes. My parents are, thank God, in good health and pretty young, but my in-laws are not. And so I can see some of the sort of challenges and struggles that you both are facing coming for us, but I feel less confident broaching the topic directly with my in-laws. And when I say it to my husband, he doesn't really get it because it's not going to fall on him as much. It's going to be me, dealing with just supporting them day to day. And so, any suggestions on how I can maybe get my husband more on board and then start to have these conversations with my in-laws?
Good question.
So I've had some of these conversations with my mother-in-law being just vulnerable about my experience with my own parents. And I think positioning it in the like a place of curiosity of just, have you thought about this? Or finding a time and space that feels right for that conversation is the first point of it. And maybe even having it without your husband there, you might get a little bit more honesty and openness from them. And
That's
maybe it's
really
not both
smart.
of them at the same time. Maybe it's starting with one. And you don't have to get all the answers up front. I didn't do that with my parents. I just kind of like would plant a seed, and then we would talk about that one little piece, and then we would come back to it a little bit later, and we would talk a little bit deeper and maybe get another layer. So it doesn't have to be like, sit down and tell me everything that's in your will and how do you want to go to assisted living and where are you being buried? Like, no, like it's more of a, have you thought about this, or what concerns you? Just kind of starting a conversation somewhere.
And Tora, when you did that, did you feel like Alex followed suit where he started to have some of the conversations as well? Or was he like, phew, Tori's taking this one and she's going to go and she's now the owner of this relationship?
I found out things that he didn't know. And so then I would bring him into the conversation at when it made sense. But it was definitely like I was coming in as this sort of more neutral party. And so I think my in-laws actually felt more comfortable talking to me about some of this than they did to their own son.
That's so interesting. You're a great daughter-in-law. It doesn't hurt that
Agreed.
Tori's in-laws also live in France. So when she's there, she's in her happy place.
Mhm.
All right, Aim, anything to round this one out?
Not really. Similar to Haley, like I would just say my parents are in fairly good health. Recently, though, I went through, my father about a week ago had a pretty extensive back surgery. And so I think for me, the learning lesson was really, I grew up my whole life with my parents sort of taking care of me, as probably many of you have. And it's just sort of a role reversal a little bit now as they're in their 70s, is, they're still pretty much with it and can handle being independent, but there's little things like going to the surgery appointments with them to make sure that everybody's hearing everything. And so the role reversal, I think, is a real thing that starts probably first. And that's kind of the phase that I'm in right now. So just working through that and learning is interesting.
For sure, for sure. All right, so I think that was a great topic. I'm really glad we dug into that. And thank you guys for being so vulnerable and giving great advice. With everything shifting right now, we just went through the industry's biggest merger of all time. We're transitioning into our new world of Compass International Holdings. There's evolving roles, there's return to office. Have you changed anything at home to make this more sustainable? And what did that actually look like in real terms? I'm talking money, time, help, conversations. Um, and if you're willing to share, like, what did some of this maybe ballpark cost you, and how did you decide it was actually worth it? For me, I had to take a nanny and apply her across way more hours than I probably would have had to when I was working at home. My kids are old enough that I'm not on top of them while they're home, but I'm at the point where now I need someone much more full time. So, what does that shift look for each of you in your individual kind of new roles and in this new world? And what shifts have you made that have been really successful that others can glean from? Amy, you want to jump in?
Um, Sure, I'll jump in. So for me, I know this sounds pretty trivial, but so prior to COVID, I was in an office every single day. And my kids are about 5 when COVID hit, and we had never had a family dinner together. because my husband and I both worked, far away. And by the time we got home, the kids were already fed. It was too late for dinner. It was, generally 7 o'clock, and we'd spend an hour with them or two, and they'd go to bed. And so when COVID hit and everyone started working from home, we started family dinners every single night. And it's been one of the best things that has happened because if you have the ability to do it, just getting whether it's 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, just as a family together to have a meal and discuss your day and get to really hear from your kids without a TV on or, the Nintendo going is really, really special. And with this new change has been that I am not sure that we're always going to be doing family dinners every night. And so that's been really hard for me to, as a mom, to say, like, you guys may not get the best dinner tonight anymore. We're going to have to order in a little bit more because, I'm just not as available to take chicken out of the freezer at, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, to prepare for dinner that night. So, I know it's not a huge thing, but it's something that is definitely going to be changing and something that we just need to sort of get used to as a family and figure out how do we fill that gap, right?
Sure.
So,
Family dinners are very important. Okay, one of the things that every mom has to deal with on a 7-day weekly basis is what am I going to make for dinner? What is the go-to in a rush family meal in the Lerner household?
definitely tacos. We're a big taco
Too.
family.
We're a
But
big
I
taco
will
family
say
too.
this is one thing that I do am pretty stringent about is every week, like around Thursday-ish, Friday, I literally make like what are we gonna have for dinner every single day? And I look at the activity list and I look at my work schedule to see like, do I have a super late meeting that day? Am I done at 5 that day? To be able to plan out what feasibly I can cook. And so that way I buy all the groceries at once over the weekend or on a Monday. I always do the apps to like pre-order. So you just go and pick it up. And then that way I'm organized for the week at least to be able to have dinners ready and things that are, not just mac and cheese or something every single night. So
Very smart.
that's my goal. Yeah.
Very smart. Now, Haley, I know you commute to the New York City Compass headquarters. It's not every day, but it's quite the commute. So share your commute time. And then I would love to hear, with everything shifting right now, how are you making it sustainable?
Yeah. So this is not normal for everyone, but I have a 2-hour door-to-door commute from Southern Connecticut down to Union Square in the city. I've been doing that 2 or 3 times a week for the past 2+ years. Kind of piggybacking on Amy, I recently decided I don't go to grocery stores anymore. I have 2 days a week for myself, and most of that time is spent with the family. 25% of that can't be at the grocery store, and it takes us with all the kids like 2 or 3 hours for the whole process.
And an
Um,
extra $100 in the gimmies, right? When you're taking them
of
through the
course,
aisles.
of course, the monster trucks, waves, I mean, it's infinite. So I now this morning at 5 a.m. before I left for my commute, place an order and then our nanny's gonna pick it up today. And like that, it seems so trivial and small, like you said, Amy, but like just releasing myself of the burden of having to go to the grocery store has helped a lot. Now, we're still not at the meal planning stage. So like I'm ordering chicken cutlets pre-made and some steak that I hope I cook. I think I can have better systems there, but that has helped. And then one other thing is I am able to time block with so much time spent on the train. And so I have really like an hour and a half of focus time in the morning and at night for the days that I'm commuting. And that helps me crush all of my documentation, all of my emails, all of my writing, a lot of my creator reviews. And that's nice because it's sort of sacred time that then when I get home, I got to be done. And so just being really structured and strict with my boundaries since I have that time sort of built in to the day.
That's great. Super good advice. Tori.
So I'm about an hour and a half drive from the headquarters without major traffic. So I'm making an effort to come in at least once a week to be with my team and see folks in person. But realistically, spending 3 hours in the car every single day, it would be a bit of a challenge. I take a lot of calls while I'm in the car so that I'm using that time appropriately as part of my work day. And I have to make sure that my husband is able to do pickup and drop off because we don't have extended care beyond, the 6 o'clock, 6:30 timeframe. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm still learning how to navigate the sort of new schedule. And there are days where it works out really great, and there are other days where it all falls apart. Um, the grocery conversation is really funny. I actually love going grocery shopping. I love to cook and all of that. And so I like to do it when I'm by myself. But one thing I recently did with a friend of mine, and it was like mind blowing. We did a grocery swap because I was like, I'm stuck in a rut. I'm doing
Wait,
all the same.
what is a grocery
Yeah,
swap? Tell
I'm
me
like, I'm making
this.
all the same meals. I'm buying all the same snacks. Like, this is so boring. And so I told her, I was like, just go grocery shopping for all the stuff that you normally buy and drop it off at my house, and I will do the same. And it like opened, and my kids were eating all of these new things that they had never tried
Wow.
before. And I had like, the ingredients for new meals that I would have never thought to make. And they were basic things. It wasn't like, complicated recipes, but so sometimes you just got to switch it up. You got to do something new and different.
Corey, next time you're in Madison, we're doing a grocery swap.
Anytime.
I love that. I think it's brilliant. Very cool. Leah.
Well, let me add to that real quick of doubling up on time. I have done like grocery dates with my girlfriends and where we go. We just got a Costco, so that's a big deal for us. And
That is
so
a
we'll go to
huge deal.
Costco together. We're able to hang out together, and sometimes we do cooking together, but not the swap yet. So I'm going to add that as well, Tori. But as far as my current reality, I've been a remote employee for about 8 years. And during that time, prior to COVID, I had a nanny especially when my kids were home for the summer because we needed that. But my husband came home during COVID and we had to share our workspace. And when that happened, he had more flexibility. So he was able to tend to the kids more. So we didn't have a nanny as much during the summer because he keeps the organization, all that kind of stuff. Well, he's a federal employee, so he was called back to office about a year ago now. And that changed our reality because now I'm the only one home. I'm the one for the responsibility of doctor's appointments, picking up the kids from school, having to change our schedules. And he was actually home last summer. So now we're in real conversations about having to bring the nanny back into our lives for the summer because it can't all be on me. I need to make sure that I'm still being attentive to the work that I need to do on a regular basis. And even though my kids are older, they still need attention and they need care and they need oversight. We are very productive in our time during the summer. So my kids don't sit in front of a screen. They have academics that they have to do. We're non-fun parents, but we give them a lot of fun to do, I promise, on the side.
I would not
But
put you in the non-fun bucket. That's not
no,
true,
we're
Leah.
fun.
You're
I'm
very
a fun mom, right? But with that, so those are the changes that I have seen just with my spouse going back to work. I'm about 3 hours away from headquarters, so I'm trying to go into the office about once a month, if not more. So I'm still flexing that out, especially with my team going back to the office.
Okay, well, when you coordinate coming in, Tori, and I will all do a grocery swap. That's the deal.
Let's do it.
Bring a cooler.
Deal.
But
All right,
you
we're
bring
going to
up
open up for
this.
Q&A soon. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you bring up something interesting with your mention of the summer. I call it like chaos season because we rely on like summer camps and this one's only open this week and that one is, 9 to 3. And so God bless anybody who's figured out chaos season because it is a lot.
Yeah.
There's spreadsheets involved and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah,
And
waking
not
up
to
at
mention,
3
summer's
a.m.
expensive. Camps are expensive. I feel like it's like,
Yeah, and there's
it's
not
adding
enough
up.
of them, right? As
No.
far as being able to send kids places, and it gets highly competitive. People like camp
Yes.
outside to sign their kids up for summer camp. It's wild.
It is wild. All right, we're gonna open up to Q&A really quickly, we're going to round robin just to close things out. If someone is on this call right now as a caregiver and they are having an I'm drowning this week moment, what is the final piece of advice that you could give them that would immediately make their life easier this week? Or their mental status better? Maybe not their life easier, but just feel lighter. What's your final piece of advice before we open it for Q&A?
Fresh air. That sounds silly.
Good one. Touch grass.
Yeah, just get outside, go for a walk, bring the kids or go by yourself. Like just get out and get some fresh air.
Good.
I think baby steps, I think as moms, we try and take on, so much at one time. Sometimes just making a list and just taking one thing at a time just helps you get through whatever that chaos is.
Agree.
I would say ask for help. I know that a lot of us said we lean on various different people, but I also noticed that it might have been during COVID when we all became like very self-sufficient. I think that we stopped leaning on each other, and I've noticed more and more like carpooling is back, and it was something that like didn't exist. And so I'm getting more and more texts from my kiddos parents asking if they can, if we can help drive places. And that's just new for us. So I would say don't be afraid to ask for help.
Completely agree with that. That took me a while to get that down. Hale?
I would say use the techniques that you adapt for your toddlers on yourself. So I'm constantly telling my toddlers deep breaths, and then I will tell myself that also. I also do positive affirmations with my toddlers. So like, you are strong, you are smart, you are kind. And if I'm in a state of chaos, I find myself telling them to myself. So yeah, just maybe adopt your talk track for your own inner work.
A really good one. That's actually excellent. I love that. All right. This has been phenomenal. I feel like whenever I moderate a panel, my prayer is that we walk away with real tangible advice, right? Everybody on panels is, you hear the be authentic, be this. This was filled with gems. So Amy, Leah, Haley, Tori, thank you. I knew you would give great advice, but truly you delivered. So thank you. Ashley Greenfield is going to help us to moderate Q&A. So Ashley, take it away.
Yes. Okay. So, what a great conversation with you all. Lots of great tips shared here. I love hearing the real and raw perspectives. One great question in the chat. As a first-time mom navigating maternity leave during a period of major company change, how do you balance stepping away while still feeling pressure to prove yourself with new leaders and teams? Who wants to
I can
take that
start. Your first maternity leave is the most sacred time of your entire life. And this place does not matter during those 3+ months. And you will never regret that. Just cherishing and going deep into that like quiet time with your new baby. You will regret reading emails during that time. So my advice is to really lean into the quiet, special time, because it's fleeting and you don't get it back. And you'll come back with, a vengeance and impress people when it's the right time.
That's such good advice. Can I tell a silly story real quick?
All stories welcome, Leah.
I came back from maternity leave right as we announced a major merger and acquisition. So there was a lot of change that was happening while I had a newborn. And I remember calling a coworker and saying, oh my goodness, we had this big meeting coming up and it was on offsite because it was confidential. And I was nursing at the time. And I was like, how do I step away so that I can pump? And we both said different time, even a decade ago or so, we both were like, I won't step away and pump. And so I suffered through it all because I wanted to show up and I wanted to impress. And now looking back, just thinking how silly that was. And so Haley, amazing advice. I wish I had that advice back then of just focusing on yourself and your baby and to continue just being your wonderful self, and that will shine through.
Everyone find a mom too when you come back. And Tori will remember this vividly because I was crying while I was pumping backstage at a Gen Blue and saying like, how am I possibly going to do this this is my new life. And I remember she was so kind. She didn't have a baby yet. So I'm trying to connect with this other woman. I'm like, I don't know if you're uncomfortable or not. I'm sorry I'm making you uncomfortable, but I just need a friend in this moment. Tears running down my face. I'm worried that there's going to be milk on my shirt as I go in front of 5,000 Coldwell Banker agents. Like, it was a very raw moment, but find yourself a girl that you can just really be vulnerable with, because when you do, it's going to be life-changing when you re-enter the workforce for sure.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question here. What was the conversation like with your kids to get them prepared for the transition? Erin has said, I've been a work from home mom for my 6-year-old daughter's entire life. When I spoke to her about mommy going back to the office and not being home when she got off the bus, the first response was, but I'm never going to see you. Talk about instant mom guilt. That's definitely tough. Anyone want to chime in here?
I would say I get a lot of mom guilt from my daughter specifically, when I travel, when I'm going into offices, whatever it might be. And at the end of the day, I think what's really important is that our kids see us as hardworking women that are having great families, but can also be in the workforce and help support our families. And so I'm just really transparent with them about, like, mommy goes to work to help so that you can go to soccer, and that, we have a house over our head, and you can get those 800, Reese's pieces that you want from Target when we're there, right? And so, just, and my kids are older now, but since they were old enough to understand, just being really transparent about why I work, and that it is really important. And I think in the long run, like, they'll see that, it doesn't matter if you're mom or dad, but it's really important that I gave it my all, and that hopefully they'll be proud of me when they get over me not being there.
So even though I'm not in the office full time, I travel quite a bit. And I take a lot of pictures just of like random things throughout the day so that when I come home, I can kind of use that as a way to share with my kids what I was doing and the things that I saw. So maybe even just start, I mean, maybe your child came to bring your kid to work day and got to see your office, but like maybe using some visuals to kind of wrap their head around where mommy is all day, could be a tool.
Tori, same here. I travel and my daughter has some anxiety. And so we have applied that same approach. But what I'll do is I take one of her stuffed animals, as silly as it sounds, I cram it into my carry-on and I take pictures of it wherever we go. She's a little bit older now, and so we do things like hotel room tours. It's her favorite thing. So as soon as I land, I have to give her a full tour of wherever we are. But I think it comes down to, especially with littles, empathy and understanding. But I also will echo what Amy said as far as being incredible role models for our kiddos and raising kiddos that will be able to navigate challenges and obstacles, and them watching us do the same and how we handle it is incredibly important.
You can tell this is a hot one because we all have a lot to share here. I had 2 kids this morning. When they see me come down in, a bit of a fancier outfit, they automatically know, oh, Mama, you're going to the city today. So I feel this one deeply. I love the idea of take your child to work day. I would suggest not doing it on that actual holiday because it's very chaotic. So I brought my then 4-year-old on the train. We commuted together. He came into the office. He got to sit with me and came to a meeting, and then we went to the camp store with like the Bluey exhibit, and then we went home after. And him just getting to see it, understand it, clocking that there were like serious people doing serious work on fancy computers, even at 4, like really changed his perception of my time spent away. It's time for my middle child to come do the same thing, because you can see he's like trying to connect the dots but can't visualize it. So I think that's a great recommendation.
Okay, next question we have here. So you all touched a bit upon staying organized, planning ahead, and setting boundaries to help juggle and communicate. Could you share what apps you guys recommend?
I just use Google Calendar. I'm pretty basic, and generally an Excel spreadsheet from time to time. I don't, I've tried some of the apps, but honestly, that feels too much of an afterthought to me, and then I forget to use them, or I'm too cheap to pay for them. So it's usually for me just pretty basic. But if anyone has a great app, I'd love to hear about it too.
Ashley Dene from Compass highly recommends Duckbill. It's one, I did an Instagram reel on it introducing the concept. I have not yet tried it, but Duckbill is one that not only she recommends, but a lot of our top agents across the country have told me about. And basically, what you can do is outsource any task to them, and it's real people doing the tasks for you. She's talked about everything from making appointments to, I was reading, if you have a medical bill that you think is off, they'll go and fight so that it's actually the right amount. I mean, it's like really, you could ask them to do anything. So I think Duckbill is one that I have to, it's going to be my Mother's Day gift to myself. I'm going to give myself a month to try it out and see how it goes.
Love that. I was just going to share the app that my son downloaded on my phone, and it's called How About, and it's the shared calendar, but he can put all his information in there and have photos and things like that. So that's how I'm sharing our calendar with my 14-year-old son, but also giving a huge shout out for whatever your AI platform of choice is. I utilize it a ton for this purpose. So when I'm traveling, I'll put in my schedule. I'll ask for various different outputs of the schedule based off of who's helping. So if it's my mom is picking up, I'll ask them to make a schedule for my mom based off of that schedule, email it to them so that they have all that information, all the contact information. I've also used AI to do notes for my daughter while we've been away. So having a note every single day in an envelope. I put in like her interest. She loved puffins, like whatever it was. And so it made these like highly personal notes that she could open every day. And then also an AI use case. If you have a kiddo that is hard to get dressed in the morning because something doesn't match or whatever it is, I have taken pictures of said outfits that don't match, upload it into AI and ask if it matches. And then luckily it will say, it matches. That's a great outfit. You could add a hat. And so that has helped eliminate some angst in my household as well.
I was personally victimized by the online marketing of the Skylight calendar. I don't know if any of you were targeted with that.
We must
And
have
I
been
felt,
targeted, Haley, every single one of
yeah.
us, all 60 on this call.
Mhm. Okay, maybe there are some fans, but I don't think it was worth it. So my my suggestion is not to spend the money on the Skylight. It is now a glorified picture frame, and I have to pay to get the pictures. Anyway, just Google. Keep it simple.
Such a good insight. Oh, another agree on the skylight. That's funny.
There was one in the chat here that Andrea put DoorDash. I'm not sure how we all missed that one, but I was laughing at that one. So that's funny. Last question here. How can you guys tell when things are getting really off balance? And what do you do to get back on track to feeling like life is better balanced between the different roles you play?
I read something somewhere that there are 4 gas burners on the stove. There's family, friends, health, and work. And usually you can keep 3 burning, but there's always the 4th one that kind of dims out. And just making sure that, you know, you're rotating your 4 burners enough and paying attention to all 4 of those things in the ways that you need to. I don't have a secret sauce to that, but I can tell when one of them is dimming more than the others. It's for me, it's usually the health one, and so just trying to keep an eye on, am I doing the right things to keep myself feeling good? And that little reminder helps me.
I love that analogy. I am going to use that. Thank you. I would piggyback on something Leah said earlier about ask for help. I can tell when like my mental load is too much. And I don't think until recently it's gotten to that point. And having to like raise my hand and have a discussion with my husband to say like, I need some help. And figuring out together like what he can help with. And if you don't have a husband or a partner, like who is that in your life that you can chat with? Because I think just feeling the confidence to actually raise your hand and being able to say something needs to give, what can you take on, or what are you okay with us dropping is, I think, an important conversation.
Yeah, I would echo that, Amy. I'm blessed to have an extremely supportive partner, but he doesn't know how to help always. And so you kind of have to spell it out for him. And I think the way I know that my mental load is getting too high is when he is really annoying me. Like that's usually an indicator. And so we were having just like an off week. And everything he was doing was really frustrating me. And so we spent some alone time last weekend, which helped.
Haley, totally agree. I can tell when it's off when I'm just chippy in general and like everyone, like and everything, and I can't clearly communicate. Um, and something just to add on to what you said of like communicating clearly to your partner. Now that my kids are older, I am now taking that approach with them. So their stuff is all over their house and they're old enough to pick it all up, but they don't. And I get upset. And so taking a minute to breathe and explain to them how that impacts me and the ability to help them and why I need them to help. And I'm just not harping on them to harp on them. And so as they grow, treating them like partners in this relationship as well.
Muted so I don't echo with Amy or Ashley. This was more than I could have imagined. I think you guys gave such great advice. Your stories were amazing. There was some humor, which I think we all needed. So thank you, Amy, Leah, Tori, Haley, for giving us all a look into your life as a mom and a colleague. If you are not subscribed to What Moves Her content, please make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We send one out every single month with great information. We have a podcast. We have to get that back going. We've been a little slow on the podcast lately. And we also have local communities. So Grace and Paula have done an amazing job of doubling the amount of local communities we have across the country. So if you want to get involved in one or even start one, you can go to whatmovesher.com/get involved. And that is a way to get involved as well. So all the moms on this call today, happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a restful, amazing weekend and look forward to another What Moves Her event coming very soon. Take care, everyone.